Hey guys, welcome back to Many Musings with a Boss Bish. I'm Stephanie Barthelmess, the main boss bish in charge, and I'm here with the most amazing human, Danielle Rosado. And she is, I have to tell you, I've been stalking this bish online for like quite some time, and she's this astrology guru that I just had to talk to. And I messaged her and I was like, listen, do you think you would be in my podcast? Because it's a podcast about no, we don't gatekeep here and we don't keep secrets here. And we talk about all the things that people aren't afraid to talk about. And it's many musings and this is what we do. And she's like, when we first, before I started recording, she's like, what are we going to talk about? I was like, whatever comes up.
I love it.
So I'm going to ask you this. This is what I'm curious about. How did you get into astrology? Because I'm starting with moonology and I'm obsessed with moonology, like obsessed with the moon because she's hot. But I want to know how you got into astrology because that's just like over my head. I understand bits and pieces, but like, how did it all happen?
Well, it really did. It started with the moon. I always say, like, my first love was with the moon. So I don't know that much about moonology. I only know about like the deck, but I don't know about like the course. But I'm sure it's kind of similar to like how I started when it comes to like understanding the moon in alignment with like the different moon signs and like how it each has its own characteristics and things and like how that matches your chart. So more or less, is that kind of like what the moonology course is like? What's the vibe there?
So with moonology, they go with it's like the whole house system.
Okay.
So like when you do it, so each house, we go through each house, right? So there's 12 houses.
Yep.
And instead of with degrees in astrology, you worry about the degrees, we do the whole house system, right? Okay. So I know astrology, it's fixed, right?
Yes.
Whereas moonology, it's ever changing, right? It's daily moon, so we're moving all of the time. And so I like it because I'm very, as my friend is into astrology, she's like, you have so much Sagittarius in your chart, no wonder you love the moon so much because you just have to go. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Okay, so like
so it's moon signs like every 2.5 days when it changes. Okay. Yeah, that's exactly what I teach. So that's exactly what I started with. Like my entire understanding of just the moon itself was really like the, bridge into all the other pieces that I started like, diving into. So for me, it was it was back in like 2018 because I went out to Thailand. I was teaching English in Thailand. I tell this story all the time. Like this was my previous life before I was an astrologer. I was a teacher. So, I grew up in New York and I got my teacher's license in New York. And then once I like had my big spiritual awakening, like during that first year of teaching, I was like, I need to go travel. I need to go see the world. I need to get the fuck out of New York. And so that was like my big, ego death that basically happened. I was like solo traveling for 6 months and having like a huge awakening of like my purpose and what I really want to do. And my gifts were coming online. And I was just like really actually creating the space to like learn the things I wanted to learn and kind of, I had so much free time when you're by yourself in a country that you don't freaking know anybody, it just kind of course I was working, but I was still like, I was so isolated from everybody, so I was really able to like follow my intuition for the first time and like see like, okay, what do you want to learn? What do you want to do? What's your passion? What are you getting into? And at the time I was going through a lot of like grief and a lot of like processing of like what I don't want, who I know I'm not, like a lot of identity shifts. So the only thing that made sense to me was astrology. Like nothing else at all was clear, right? So it just kind of like came to me at a time where I was really lost and had no direction and was kind of like very open to like understanding and getting clear on things. And astrology was like a language that just made sense to me. It was like, this is so relatable. This is so spot on. And the more that I dived into just understanding the new and the full moon at first, it kind of gave me that structure, right? Like to me, my Pisces energy, I have like 4 planets in the 12th house. So like, I'm a fucking space cadet. Like I don't have, the idea of time or like, routine, do the same thing every day. Like, I'm not like that. I'm very in the moment, whatever the hell I feel like. I have a lot of fire in my chart as well. So you have the Sagittarius, I got Aries, I got Leo. So like, to me, it's like whatever the fuck I feel like, right? It's very in the heat of the moment. It's not very much about having a sense of like understanding in terms of like how cycles work and how like how I can kind of keep myself accountable to certain things. And I could understand the new moon is going to start a cycle for 6 months and I can reflect back on the full moon 6 months later. When that started like kind of clicking in my head, that was when things started really just like, again, connecting the dots. I was like, holy fuck, I feel like I'm unlocking this like cheat code to life. And that alone completely shifted my perception of like how things are working out for me, how I can like really have a check-in with myself. Like, girl, where you're at? Like, how are you feeling? Like, let's talk to yourself a little bit here because you're so all over the place and you're so everything for everybody else. Like, can you have a practice just for you? And that was what really sparked the like astrology to me. And then the more I dived into understanding the moon in alignment with your chart, then forget about it. Like, then it just unlocked a whole fucking, okay, this is like a whole world. And I'm still learning. Like, the thing is, people think that, oh, you become an astrologer or you claim yourself as an astrologer and then like, you stop learning. Like, I learn every single freaking day, girl. Like, I'm constantly looking at my chart and finding something that I didn't see before. And I'm like, how the fuck? Where'd that come from?
When did that happen?
Because there's just so many layers to it. So I really do feel like it's important for anyone who's like interested, like start with just like a practice of actually integrating the knowledge first. Like, I think people get lost in the sauce with like all of it and they want to like get into like every single part of it. And then they get overwhelmed. I think like the reason why it worked so well for me and why it clicked for me is because I was actually in an applied practice with it. Like, it was something that I was doing for like, 6 months at a time, every month, new and full moon check-ins with myself, writing everything down and creating the like intentions and having the rituals and like that self-care practice. Once I got into the integration of it, then it was like, oh no, this is real. This isn't just like something to study. This is something that actually is going to reflect my real life experience every single time. And that's where it really started to like make sense for me.
I love that so much. Now, you said about rituals. Are there any like new and full moon rituals that you love to practice like the most every month? Or like, do you use a different one for each one, like each zodiac sign?
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely have like my kind of universal every moon can be like more or less, a new moon for me. That's a time where I'm like, dude, this is a new beginning. Like, this is a time, it's kind of like a reset, And like, it's like that central alt delete, like anything else is past. And I get to really like rewrite the story on the new moon. So for instance, like, last new moon a couple weeks ago, that was like in my 4th house, which of course we already discussed. Like, that was, I think, when we were connecting. I was going through a huge transition with like moving and again, and like going through like, the process of packing and unpacking my shit and like being in that gypsy energy. And to me, I was like, okay, I could focus on the fact that shit, like everything I'm leaving behind, it's 11/11 while we're talking.
I know. I just thought that. I'm like, oh my God.
Like, here we go. But, you can dwell on like, what am I leaving behind? What am I grieving? What am I doing? Because it was a new moon in Scorpio. But instead I was like, okay, this is an opportunity. It's a new moon. So this is a time where I get to dream. I get to come back to that sense of like possibility. What's coming up for me? What do I want? Can I come back to desire? So new moons for me is always like that time where I'm just going to get really excited about what am I going to create through the intentions of like the sign that it's in relation with, you know, of course, the area of my life where it's like landing. So that's like where it is about the specific part for me. Like I have a focus area. I know exactly what I'm setting intentions on. I know exactly what I'm dreaming about. Instead of it being so like vague and open, like I'm calling in abundance. I'm calling in this. It's
right. Exactly.
Like, bitch, I'm calling in a fucking dream house.
Yes.
And I'm going to travel and these are the places I'm going to go. And this is like the plane ticket I'm going to buy. And like, you know, you got to get real fucking specific on the new moon. Like, so that's where to me, you know, the new moon is always going to be a time to dream. And like, when I think about my ritual, I always like to do candle magic for like manifestation. So yeah, so I might like switch the colors of the candles or like, you know, things like that. But that really just depends on like my mood. You know?
Do you, right, with your candle magic, do you put sigils on your candles too? Or
I have played with sigils because I've worked with like I had my own personal witch for like 6 months of the year. I was like, I was being super bougie. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. But she played a lot with sigils and I like to learn through her, but I never really did it like through my own, except for like what I do on the candles is I write out either like, I like to play with numbers. Like I do a lot with like, you know, if I'm going to call in money or call in a certain amount of clients or anything like, or maybe like a certain timeline of how long I want like the, let's say within that time frame, like 3 days, I'll literally write 3 days and it'll be like within 3 days, this is going to happen. Right.
I love that.
So I kind of like give it like a specific intention, or maybe it's like the month that I'm in. So I'll be like November or something. Or if I'm calling in, let's not say something for 2024, I'll put 2024. So like,
I like that.
Yeah, like I like to, I don't know, numbers is something that I think just kind of connects with me for some reason. I'm not into numerology like that, but I like to play with it within my manifestations. And I notice that it kind of gives me a concrete thing, like it's 8 people. It's going to be 8 people, right? Like 8 clients are coming in and it's going to be by this day. Like that's it. There's nothing else to it.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what I like to do. And then on the full moon, I always like to burn like whatever is fucking getting in the way. Like, you know, I'm very much a fire witch. I'm a pyro. Like I'm going to burn that shit into flames. I'm going to stare at it. I'm going to like cackle while that shit fucking burns. Like I'm going to, like send the smoke out. I'm going to take the ashes out into the yard as far away from my house as possible. I'm going to bury that shit in a cemetery somewhere. Like I get super witchy with it when it comes to full moons. Like, and I howl. You need to howl on every full moon.
Y'all, listen, she said it too as well, because I said that in my last podcast. I said howl at the moon because you gotta let her know, and she appreciates it, guys. Goddess appreciates you howling at her, and she wants to hear your voice. And that release, it's a release, though. I look at it's you're letting go of the shit that's stuck in there in that howl. Like there's so much stuck inside of you, and when you release with the howl, it's like
it's so primal.
Cathartic. Yes, and it's cathartic. It's like I'm letting go as soon as I have. Mind you, I have 2 pit bulls, and so the last time I howled, like my babes looked at me like,
"Mommy, what the hell you doing, Mama?"
Right? Like, Mommy, did you just howl? I'm like, yes, baby. That just happened. Like, I promise you, it happened. He's like,
I can't help it. It's like every time she comes out, I'm just like, it's like this very visceral reaction in my body, like, oh my God. And then I just like, I'm gonna howl at her. Like it just comes through, but it's always very like, it kind of like solidifies like the intention, you know, like, no, you're gonna hear what I'm trying to call out here. So
I agree with you. And that's another one of my rituals. My favorite full moon ritual that I like to do for my release is I like to write my one word intention, right, of what I want to release. So just example, release. Let's say release is the intention, whatever.
Yeah.
And then I just start writing whatever I want to release, and I keep writing. And if I start crying, cool. Yes, it's working. And then I keep writing until I'm done crying, right? And this was something I learned like 3 years ago when I started working. Mind you, I didn't know it was shadow work, but right, it was what I was doing, and I kept writing. And then when you're done crying is when you're done releasing, right? And then I fold the paper away from me, right? Because when you fold it towards you, you're keeping it, right? But when you fold it away from you, you're releasing it still. And then I take the paper outside to my fire ring and then burn it.
Burn that bitch.
Burn it, because I'm fucking done. And then again, I howl at the moon, and I howl at her, and I'm like, thank you. Thank you for getting rid of this shit for me, because I obviously couldn't do it myself. And you're helping me release the nonsense that is stuck, that was stuck, because I wrote it out so that you could take care of it for me. Right.
Yeah.
So she's so beautiful. She's so awesome. I love it. I love it. I love moon magic. I love all of it. And especially like now, like, it's so funny. We didn't even realize that we picked today, the full moon in Gemini. As we're recording, it's the full moon in Gemini. And like,
no, that was honestly, this is what I'm trying to say, girl. Like, I, even as an astrologer, I don't pay attention to a lot of like the dates. Like, people think, oh, you know everything. It's like, I just do shit. I just live life. I'm just like a normal ass human. And then it just so happens to be the day that was supposed to happen. So you were like, yeah, girl, let's do a podcast together. I'm like, all right, cool. And I just chose the day I was next available. And then I like wake up. I'm like, I literally have a freaking podcast on the full moon in Gemini. It's just so perfect. It really is. I love it. I do. Do you have any Gemini placements?
I'm a Gemini moon.
Okay. Oh, so this is your moon.
Yeah, and of course I was up at 3:00 this morning.
How are you feeling?
I was up at 3:00 this morning, and I'm like, bitch, you have to record a podcast. Like, go to bed. So now I was up till like 6, and I'm like, no, go to sleep. Go to sleep. And I slept till like 8, and finally I was like, you just get up. Just get up. It's fine. It's fine. It will be fine. It will be fine.
I hear you, girl. I know.
She's just like, why are you even bothering? Like, why are you trying? And that was it. Like, I kept dreaming about her, and like, she's just like, this is what you can do. This is what you can teach. I'm like, it's 3:00 in the morning. Why can't you just tell me this later? Like,
it's always at night, and it's always exactly. I get the best ideas right before I'm about to fall asleep, and I always have to write everything out in my notes section, because then I'll look at it the next day and be like, oh shit, or I'll find it randomly like weeks later, like, oh, I forgot I wrote this down. But that's exactly what happens for me too. Yeah,
and it's funny, guys. Like, don't ever dismiss those little nudges, because then if you dismiss them, then you'll forget them. And then and then your guides will be like, I told you so. And then you'll be like, but what did you tell me? Because I don't remember. It happens like all of the time. And what's really fun, actually, how Danielle and I met was, are you okay with me talking about it?
Yeah, of course. I actually really remember.
Okay. So, well, there was a post, and somebody tagged me in the post about a goddess that you had a question about. Yes. Okay. And so she's actually my god, which her statue is right there. It's Hecate. And it was funny because I was like, wait, she didn't know about this, which it shocked me, because roses, like, you had a whole rose ceremony, and I'm like,
rose portal, girl. Yeah.
I'm like, and this bitch doesn't even know. Wait, what?
I know. I feel like I'm one of those witches that like just does shit, but like literally has no idea why or where or what it's coming from. Like I'm just such a like naive witch. Like, but I'm also so in tune. And then like everything will always, like I say it's a portal because it literally is, because I'll like enter like, let's say the rose portal, right? The rose portal came to me. And then it just like, now I'm seeing roses fucking everywhere. And it's like, dude, I'm telling you right now, that was the wildest experience. It happened like very just within, you know, a synchronistic, like 1 week experience, like all at once, where, you know, I start with just getting a random download. Okay, you need to buy some roses. And it was actually at a retreat that I was at and I was co-facilitating. But I wasn't like, you know, the lead facilitator. I was just assisting and helping. But, you know, I had that download, like, we need to get them roses. And it was just so in my mind. I saw them dancing with the roses. I saw them like very priestess energy, you know, like tapping them into their divine feminine, like, let's get like soften your energy. And then, you know, next thing you know, I'm on my way to buy roses and I'm listening to a reading. It was actually a psychic reading that I bought like maybe weeks ago. And of course, like she just so happened to channel that day. It was one of those, like, you'll receive it when you receive it. And she just so happened to like voice note me that morning and I'm listening to it. And she's like, your last name is Rosado. And they're reminding you about the roses. You need to work with roses. And I'm sitting here like, I'm literally buying roses right now. And then the second that opened up and we did that ceremony and we danced with the roses, I swear to God, I'm seeing them everywhere. I forgot. I have a rose tattoo. I had rose oil that I spray or I use. I have rose water that I spray. I have all types of, it was like everywhere, like roses on my deck that I used every day, like the Oracle deck. I was like, you didn't even notice it. It just, once you see it, you can't unsee it.
No. Yeah. She was like slapping you.
I didn't know it was. I didn't know it was Hecate. I thought it was Mary Magdalene. I mean, it is. It is.
It's both. They're both. Yeah.
I didn't realize Hecate was associated with it. But the same thing happened with Hecate for me, where I hear her name once and then it's just like this whole freaking portal of like continuing to see her and hear her name everywhere. And now I'm like, all right, who's Hecate? What is she asking for? How do I work with her? So,
well, and that's the thing too with her. It's, she chooses you. And that's not one of those things where a lot of people like they need to. My one friend, she tried to choose her and she's like, no,
she don't want nothing to do with you.
No. And that's actually how I got that statue, is because she tried to choose her and she's like, she doesn't like me. She don't like me at all. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? She's like, well, I didn't realize that she has to choose you. I was like, oh, yeah. How about that? Because she literally like destroyed a candle and like it blew up. And I was like, you don't like, she's not a goddess that you mess with. Like, you just either she loves you or she doesn't, and you just kind of let it happen when it happens. And so when I saw that post, and my friend Kate is the one that actually, like, she's like, Stephanie, I'm like, what? And then I saw it, like, oh yeah, so and then I got all of those downloads and I was like, how did you not notice, is my question. Like, all of these signs, because there were more than just, it was more than just the roses. And I remember that much. Like, it's just, I know there's crows for you too.
And the snakes. Snakes are
huge. And I love snakes. Snakes are so pretty. They're so pretty. I love snakes.
Snakes follow me a lot. I see them a lot. Like, black snakes will like cross my path. I'll see them in my dreams. Like, it was interesting. I was like almost associating it with like ayahuasca for a sec. Like, am I being called to Aya? Like, why are snakes following me? What's up here? And then, you know, you were connecting it with Hecate. Yeah, the keys. Yep. Yep.
Mhm. It's crazy. It's
I,
just so, yeah.
I was still a little chicken though. I'm not gonna lie. I still haven't like officially. I'm still like like I'll ask for you, but I don't know what the fuck you're gonna do. So just be nice. Please be nice to me.
It's funny because she's not, she's only mean to those that like force themselves on her.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's, I mean, if you look at all deities, they're like that. You know what I mean? It's if she presents herself to you, it's like it's you're worthy, right? And again, right? Like, no gatekeeping, guys. Like if you're worthy of her and she'll come to you, right? But you're not forcing yourself. You're not like, hey, look at me. I'm awesome. I'm special. Like, you know, you want me. You know, you love me. Like, I'm here for you, right?
But I think that, you know, she was really just there during that time, which made sense because I genuinely was going through a huge transition. Like, so I think it was just like that sense of, you know, bringing back my power in that situation and not letting that drag me down. You know, I do feel that very strongly.
And I just heard too, you're ready. Like, you're ready and not to be afraid to. I feel like there's a fear.
Yeah.
she's like, don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Just she's like, just let it happen.
Yeah. No, literally, like I feel it's so funny because did you know that she is an asteroid in like your birth chart? So you can see like what placement
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wait,
so like,
what?
Yeah. So if you are on astro.com and you go to, I believe it's in the extended chart selection part of the site, you can like scroll down and kind of look through like the settings of like things you can add on to like your birth chart, because obviously like there'll be the default, you know, just like regular planets. And then you can add on things like, you know, if you want to see different asteroids, like the different goddess, there's all the goddesses have a part in your chart, just so you know. Yeah, girl, it's like a whole thing. So when we're looking at, and I'm still like learning about like what each thing means, like obviously like I'll have to dig in deeper with the different meanings of like, you know, what does Hecate in Leo mean, right? Because I have Hecate in Leo and she's in my 12th house. But what I do know is that she's literally right near my Jupiter placement. So what's interesting is that it's kind of like embedded within me, because it's very like whenever it comes to like the asteroids in the chart, and just so anyone knows if they're listening, it's number 100. So you'll just go into like the asteroid part and you can literally just put the number 100 and it'll come up. You'll see it. And so when I found it, when they're very close in degree to a placement you were born with, then it's like, of course, like more kind of noticeable. It's going to manifest in your life more noticeably. So I was like really starting to think, okay, if she's near my Jupiter, then that makes a lot of sense, because I've always said whenever I was in a crossroads in my life, and it's so freaking funny because I usually will say, like to my clients or just kind of like within my general channel of something, I'll say like, if you're at a fork in the road, right? And you have to go left or you have to go right, which is very like, you know, Hecate energy, like, you know, which way am I going to go? I always say like, you're not going to steer yourself wrong, right? Like you're always going to be exactly where you're meant to be, whether it's the, you know, detour way or if it's going to be more of a clear path. But like, don't doubt your intuitive knowing of what you're meant to do. And I always say, because again, Hecate is so close to my Jupiter, that when I do finally decide, okay, this is the direction I'm going to go in, this is what I'm doing, obviously the universe meets you halfway and you're just like met with all these new open doors and possibilities and like, you know, whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, wait, that's my signature. That's why, because it's Jupiter, and Jupiter energy is all about expansion and the bigger picture and like kind of deeper faith that you need to cultivate in your life and really trusting yourself and kind of going on the unbeaten path and just going for it. Like if you're going to do it, fucking do it. Like, you know, like go all in. And so That's literally how I've always lived. It's always been this very just like, okay, I'm tuning in. Like, this is what I'm being called to do. It doesn't make fucking logical sense. It never will. But I know for some reason I'm being called to go down this path. And then boom, shit just like appears and it just works. So I just wanted to share that in case anyone was curious about seeing it.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't Jupiter also like the luck planet? Like,
absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like you can't go wrong.
I can't go wrong. So here's the thing about Jupiter that like is it's interesting because of course like there's always like a shadow of everything, right? So
right.
So Jupiter does have like the positive expression of luck and expansion and prosperity, like all the things we want, right?
Right.
But the shadow of Jupiter is also like excess and like doing too much and like kind of, you know, overdoing it. So I also recognize where, you know, sometimes if I'm, let's say, impatient, right? If like I'm going down a path and I'm just like, okay, nothing's really coming up here. What's going on? If I'm in that sense of impatience, I could also be more impulsive and be like, fuck it, I'm about to just go right. Nope, I'm just going to go this way. No, I'm going to turn around. And that's where it's like, you could kind of do too much of it, right? Where it's like, don't, what's the word? Like, yeah, like don't kind of
jump into it.
Yeah, don't be impulsive about it. Like be very in tune and intentional with like what you're doing. And I think that was something that I had to learn where it's like, yeah, I've obviously been I'm trusting myself no matter what. But at the same time, I had to like think, okay, is this something that's actually going to serve me? Or am I just doing this because everyone else is doing it? Like, or am I doing this because I feel fear or I feel scarcity or I feel lack? Like, what's the real intention behind what I'm doing? So I think that that's something to just be aware of because whatever Jupiter touches, he's going to expand it and make it bigger. So whatever sign it's in for anyone, right? Like if you have your Jupiter, let's say in Gemini, then you're really fucking Gemini, you know, like that doesn't always mean like you're going to have the luckiest time, like, but you absolutely will maybe have a bunch of connections and a fuckload of people that you know and a lot of knowledge and like things that you've learned, right? So it's kind of like the planet that, you know, shows where you do a lot of something, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Now I like, as soon as we're done here, I'm going to go look at my chart and see where all of my stuff is. And I really want to know about my goddesses and stuff because I know like the deities I've worked with and like that have come through for me, but like now I want to know like
where they are in your chart.
Yeah.
If you want, I could always like for the sake of the podcast, like I can try to find a resource that will kind of give like the numbers for like the different goddesses, and then you could always have it for yourself and share it if you want it.
Yes, absolutely. Like a link for it. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. I'll put that in the notes, in the show notes, guys. That will be there.
Yes,
absolutely. Well, I don't want to keep you here for too much longer. So thank you so much for all of the info, guys. As I promised, there was no gatekeeping during this episode whatsoever. We gave you so much info because that's what we do. There's no bullshit here. So thank you so much. I so appreciate you being here with me today. Do you want to close out? Do you have any offers that you want to let everybody know about?
Yeah, sure. If anyone's curious about following me, definitely follow me. I always post like different astrology updates talking about what's coming up for especially 2024 was about to step into the new year. So I just, I do have a couple new ways of working with me for the whole year. It's going to be like astrology in your back pocket for all of 2024. So yeah, if you want to either work with the moon, I have my Moon Magic membership, or we're going to be like jamming out on every new and full moon together. Or if you want to do more of a business astrology perspective, if anyone's a business owner, I do have a new business astrology membership. And that's going to be very much like looking at one component of your birth chart and aligning it to your business, different strategies and different, marketing techniques techniques and things that you could be doing utilizing your chart. So definitely follow me. I'm sure you can link my socials and all the things. So
absolutely, all her stuff will be in the show notes. And thank you so much, Danielle. I appreciate you being here. All right, guys, that was another episode of Moony Musings with a Boss Fish. Thank you so much for being here, and we will see you next week.
Hey, Boss Fish. Thank you for watching another episode of Moony Musings with a Boss Fish. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and make sure you comment and let me know exactly what you loved, and let me know what you want to watch. I can't wait to hear from you.